So my name's Meaghan Kalena Faulkenberry. I'm an author. I've been writing since second grade. I've been technically creating stories in my head for as long as I can remember, but as far as putting the pen to paper, or pencil in this case, I didn't start until I was in second grade, and I wrote a book every school year it was part of my, school's curriculum to have just write a story a year. So as I went on, my stories became longer and longer and more detailed. And in fourth grade, I wrote a story called The Battle of Barney versus the Teletubbies. And I started realizing that my words can have effect on people. They were people, we would have our young authors set out, and when we had to read for like story time or whatever, so we would read to ourselves, but I had people fighting over my books and to read them. So that was definitely the first moment I realized that, hey, maybe this author thing is kind of it's a step in the right direction if people really like it. But I do love writing anyway, so even if people weren't fighting over my books, I would still write anyway. So how do I deal with writer's block? It's really super rare that I have writer's block. I've read, and I think this is true in my own experience, that writer's block stems from fear, stems from the fear of being judged, the fear of having an audience. So I write things that I personally enjoy. Like right now I'm doing Sorrowed Souls, which is a reader insert with Black Veil Bride's fandom. And it's getting very, very dark and very, very deep, and I really like the direction I'm going in with it. I just published a pretty pivotal chapter, so I'm not totally sure whether or not the readers are going to respond in the way I would like them to this chapter. I think it's definitely a thought-provoking one, and that leads me to the best thing about being a writer, is getting to actually create and having the vocabulary and having basically enough words at my disposal to paint the right pictures I want to paint. I'm not a huge reader, but I find in my writing it's kind of a mixture of, here's maybe a little bit of intelligence, and here's maybe a little bit of how can we creatively set this up into a story and have it be, how can this line affect you, or how can that word affect you, and how can it make you think deeper about these characters. The worst thing about being a writer, I would say the online presence. I'm pretty big on Quotev, which, if you're unfamiliar with Quotev, it's basically about it's a story creation site, but a lot of people roleplay their accounts. And I put up kind of personal activity statuses. So it's like Facebook, but it's just people I don't really know. I have about 5,000 followers on Quotev. And I had, I guess this person either followed me for a follow back or they followed me because they like my stories. But anyway, I was talking about this guy and whether or not, he likes me or not. And this person basically says, they said no, like sarcastic. I didn't know it was sarcastic. They didn't do a JK. They didn't do a /sarcasm. They didn't do anything to actually say that this is a sarcastic comment. So I was like, okay, I guess he doesn't like me. But then they said, for a writer, you can't really read tones well, huh? And I'm like, oh, really? And I didn't get in a fight. I just deleted the comment. But I think having that online presence, people do judge you for being a writer, and depending on your fandoms, if it's fan fiction, if it's original fiction, they can definitely poke shots at you. But again, that just reflects on their self-esteem, how they see themselves. Because this person, I think with a lot of people on the internet, they pump themselves up because they have such low self-esteem that they try and make themselves look better than real life. Facebook is famous for this, status updates, selfies, duck faces. So my advice to aspiring writers is definitely read things that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be, a book on writing, or it doesn't have to be this intelligent thing. It doesn't have to be a bestseller. Like, for example, I was in 8th grade. Twilight was a good read. It was an easy read because I could imagine myself as Bella. So, but now that I go back, I just recently picked it up from the library again because I'm like, I kind of want to read Twilight again, see if it was good. And I couldn't make it past the first page. It was so bad. But it was interesting, the fact that, so I have my book right here, but the Twilight, it was pretty much twice this thick, pretty much, and it had, on the back, it had the reimagining of Twilight, so you read it kind of backwards. So this would be a normally formatted font and stuff like that. And So that was interesting. I really liked how they did that formatting. So my advice is just keep writing. If you like it and it's not hard for you, and if it's something you truly enjoy, just go after it. Just get after it. Just write because you love it. I don't think you should write because someone tells you to, or someone says this is really good. Those are great. I think that's icing on the cake, but the main part of that cake, that delicious, amazing cake, is the fact that you love writing. So I think that would be my advice. I don't know if that's helpful or not. I don't know. What have I published? Depends how you define publishing. I published a lot of things online. My first fan fiction was a Teen Titans one in 2014. I was searching for a very, very dark story based around Raven and Robin that I probably read maybe when I was like 8 or 9. It was like, whoa. So I tried to find it again, but it got deleted in a purge of adult content on fanfiction.net. But I also made friends with this great writer. She wrote Road Trip, DT Mars. She's no longer writing fanfiction though, but I'm plugging that story anyway because it's amazing. It really made me fall in love with words, and how we can, express ourselves through words, and how we can take these characters that aren't necessarily ours, but still spin it and twist it in a way that, let's go over here with this. Let's see what we can do with these characters. So I published on Amazon. I published The Thoughts We Think and All the Silence in Between, which is a very heavy but very short story about a dad trying to come to terms with his college daughter's suicide. It was definitely an interesting thing to write, and I really like how it came out. It's very short. I don't have it physically published like Grazing the Sky is. But so this is physically published, and I have, all around my room, I have published like these. This one is totally, not together at all. It's like, it's totally falling apart. But I have books that are together that are my young authors. Like I said before, it's a story a year for my elementary, middle school. So what am I currently working on? I would say I'm switching out between Sorrowed Souls and Setting Wings of Flame. Setting Wings of Flame is another reader insert romance story, but it's gotten very dark. It's available on my Kotev, kotev.com/speak when it rains. Speak as in you're saying something. So where did I get the idea for my most recent book? I have to think what I did. I'm using my phone to record, so I can't look it up. I want to say my most recent story was, I don't know, I just kind of come up with random ideas at the randomest times, usually when I'm trying to fall asleep. So idea just popped. I started, writing it for all my stories. It just began with something like just a sentence. I don't really know where I'm going with it, but it's like the code in the office. Like, I don't know where I'm going with it. I just hope I find it along the way. That's basically how I write. How did you decide writing was what you wanted to do? That's an interesting question. I've always been a storyteller, like I said before, but I would say that around junior year, my AP English class, we had to do things called illusions, which were, we had to put these words in sentences and like phrases and kind of old-timey stuff. So the first one we did at the very beginning of our first semester, I went to medical high school, but it was beautifully done with their English courses. I really, really just enjoyed them a lot, and I got to grow as a writer. But anyway, so we had to do something called illusions, and we had to put these in sentences. The first one was Achilles' heel, which if you don't know is like a weak point as far as physicality goes, and it's had this legend that, the Achilles' heel is like your downfall. So I put my two characters from Grazing the Sky, or one of the two characters. They've been developing with me for a long time now, since I was 5 and I was about 16 at the time. So I put them in the sentences, but I didn't want people to be confused by the names, because Jayne and Zuka are like off the wall names. People don't really name people, characters like that. So I just did he and her, and it was, her eyes met his again, and he felt himself grow weak. She was his Achilles' heel. How could he say no? And when I read that, I felt a bead of sweat travel down my ribcage. I'm like, God, I'm sweating. My mind was blank, and the class was silent. And about 5 seconds later, this guy, he speaks from the very back of the room, and he goes, damn, that's deep. And yeah, people kind of laugh and stuff. I think people clap, maybe. But it was my first real like look into, you know, I can have people be affected by the words I say. And so as the semester and as the year rolled on, people started talking about my writing. They talked about my illusions in class, and also outside of class too. I got a friend that I had in middle school, kind of an acquaintance. She came up to me one time when I was eating lunch with my friends, and she says, you know, Meg, I've heard that you're just an amazing writer. And I go, thank you. That's very nice of you. So yeah, so that English course was definitely a lead-in. My AP English teacher at the end, I think it was at the end of that year, she did, you know, dear future, she spelled it wrong, so I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Pulitzer Prize winner. Then she talked about how amazing my writing is and how blah, 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 blah. And so, yeah, I mean, I had, you know, people I really admired say, you know, I really admire your writing. So it was cool to have that mirror, I guess, reflection. When and where can we find your work? You can find me on Amazon. Meaghan Kalena Faulkenberry. This is my baby. You can just search Grazing the Sky if you want to get a very long, but it took me, you know, it's 17 years of development, 18 years actually, I just turned 23, so 18 years of development in one book. I'm not really writing anything too serious right now. Find me on Kotev, Speak When It Rains, fanfiction.net, Google Speak When It Rains, and I'll pop up. All my sites will pop up. Yeah, I'm also on YouTube. Meg Faulkenberry, I believe, is my URL for YouTube. I'm really not totally sure. I haven't checked it. I haven't made a video in a while. I've been recording, but I haven't really made videos. Anyway, my name is Meg Faulkenberry, and thank you for reading.